This is going to be really niche, and nobody is going to know what I'm talking about, but there's a video by a YouTuber named El Presador, where he goes out there and talks to another YouTuber, Wings of Redemption, and calls him repeatedly a failure. Failure. You're a failure. And I have that clip running in my mind back and forth as I look at the Calgary Flames season on 2022-2023, because last night we had ourselves a game between the Preds and the Flames. This was a crazy game from a standings point of view because the Calgary Flames needed to get those 2 points. Had they not gotten the 2 points, they would have been eliminated. And okay, look, it's easier to go out there and explain after the fact. The Calgary Flames lost. They lost in a shootout, but that's not even what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how they lost in the shootout, the decisions that were made, and the ramifications in the standings. You see, all the spots in the West are already taken up except for one, that final wild card, which is currently held by Winnipeg. The Jets have 93 points in 80 games played. The Predators have 2 games left at 90 points. The Flames have 91 points in 81 games played, so the max they could get is tying up the Winnipeg Jets with 93 points. However, the tiebreaker, regulation and overtime wins, is in Winnipeg's favor. So Calgary, with the loss yesterday against Nashville, is officially out. The Preds still have a chance to go out there and overtake the Jets if they win their last 2 games and the Jets end up losing. They need the Jets to lose their last 2 games in regulation because whatever tiebreaker would have been in place is also in Winnipeg's favor versus Nashville. But either way, this game, heavy implications in the standings, the Flames lost, and here's why people are upset about it. You see, this was the second straight loss in a shootout the Flames had. They lost against Vancouver a few nights ago, and then they lost here against the Predators as well. But in the shootout order, you had yourselves a very peculiar set of players that went out. First, you had Jonathan Huberdeau, who went out there and he scored a goal. Very nice. You then had Philip Tomasino for the Predators, who ended up missing. Nazem Kadri went 3rd in order. He got saved. Luke Evangelista then went 4th, and then you had yourselves round 3 in the shootout, where the Flames had an opportunity to win the game. They needed somebody to score, and if they did, that would be it. They would be significantly hampering the Nashville Predators' playoff chances. In fact, I think they would have been eliminated. Yeah, the Preds would have been eliminated had they lost the game even in a shootout, and the Flames had the opportunity to get that bye. However, instead of icing out Elias Lindholm, who has been a very talented goal scorer for the team the past few years, or Tyler Toffoli, who has been the best player on the Flames this season, Darryl Sutter goes with Nick Ritchie. Ritchie ends up getting saved. You then had the Nashville Predators, who had to get a goal to extend their season and not get eliminated. Cody Glass scores. Mikael Backlund for the Flames, not Toffoli or Lindholm once more, ends up getting stopped. And then Tommy Novak scores against Jacob Markstrom. And just like that, the Predators are still in, and the Flames are out. You see, this has been a disappointing season, to say the least. It's been a failure of a year, based off of all the articles I'm seeing pop up about the Flames and how they traded Tkachuk away, they got Huberdeau, they got Weegar, they signed Kadri, they got all these talented players on their team, yet they still find a way to end up losing in Game 81 of the season. It's been a really odd year, especially when you consider the coaching, the way Darryl Sutter has conducted himself, and the way he has deployed these guys, what he had said in the media about certain players, and of course the decision-making in the shootout here. You know, it's been interesting seeing the Flames fan base reaction to Darryl Sutter this entire year, just kind of seeing the ups and downs and people praising the guy, people hating on the guy, etc. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like everybody was united in the same mindset when Darryl Sutter decided to put Nick Ritchie in the shootout in a must-win situation rather than playing Toffoli or Lindholm or whoever else is on the team that you probably would expect to be one of the main shooters. Nick Ritchie? Okay. I mean, nowadays, the sentiment amongst most fans is that Darryl Sutter is probably going to be on his way out soon, or he should be at the very least, and this may just be the icing on the cake when it comes to rounding out a really bad season, where the guy wouldn't adjust, where he wouldn't really adapt to the new players on the team, where you got guys like Kadri expressing their frustrations with things, and there are more opportunities than one to read in between the lines as to what's really going on with the Calgary Flames and their bench boss situation. And then you have the power play too. You've got Kirk Muller out there running this thing into the ground, and it does not look great. It feels like it's more than just the main head coach here. It's like a good chunk of this coaching staff. When you have a team that a lot of people, myself included, said was arguably better this year on paper than it was last year when they made the second round, end up missing the playoffs in this sort of a fashion, you're not as consistent as you want to be. Jacob Markstrom, unfortunately, isn't as good as he was last year, and that's really not his fault, but it's kind of like, okay, you lose the starting goaltender qualities from your starting goaltender, and all of a sudden, okay, you're not a playoff team anymore? When your roster is arguably better? Like, there are more red flags than one here with the Calgary Flames and their 2022-2023, and I feel like for next season, you just gotta hope that everything ages properly. I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, these guys are gonna be here for a while, and Huberdeau is at 55 points this season. If you told me at the beginning of 22-23 that Huberdeau would end off the year with 55 points, then I would have called you crazy. Like, realistically, the guy had 115 points last year. Who's to say that he wasn't capable of getting that on a team like Calgary, where he'd have a really good sniper and Elias Lindholm to feed night in and night out? Like, Huberdeau is one of the best playmakers in the entire NHL. I think last season we started to slowly establish that he was that underrated guy that just doesn't get the love. He had an 85 assist season last year. Like, what? How does he go out there and only have 55 points? He goes from 85 assists to 40? Now, I know he had 41 assists in 2021, but that was in 55 games. He has been a premier playmaker this entire time, and now, going over to Calgary, his point production halves. It's literally cut in half, and Nazem Kadri, you take a look at that guy. He had a 100-point pace last year, 87 points, 71 games played. He also declined pretty steadily. Now, to be fair to Kadri, there were a few more seasons where he was not as productive as he had been last year. That's fair. But he was a point per game in the playoffs. He was just an overall beast for the Avalanche, and he got signed to a big money contract, $7 million a season until 2029 because of it. And it's 2023 right now. Nazem Kadri is going to be 38, when that contract expires. So realistically, there's not a lot of things you can do if you're a Flames fan other than just hope that next season everything just gets better. You've got good players, that's for sure. Toffoli had 70 points this year. Nazem Kadri had a 100-point pace last year. Jonathan Huberdeau, 115 points last year too. But it just didn't click. And whether or not it's the coach, or the coaches, or the morale, the locker rooms, the whatever, there's something that's got to be done here for next season, because the Calgary Flames were supposed to be a lock to be making the playoffs. If you talk to anybody at the start of the season, this team was arguably better than last year's team, and last year they made it to the second round. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section about the Calgary Flames against the Nashville Predators, the shootout, Nick Ritchie, Darryl Sutter, all this stuff. Let me know your opinions about where the Flames are and what they should be looking to do in the next few months here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.